What are you talking about? The plate is like this big.
Softball fanatics, how are you doing today? How's everybody liking the two days a week here? You get to see me twice a week. You get to see Ches twice a week. Allie. Speaking of Ches and Allie, I got them right there. They are. Look at those beautiful faces.
What's up, folks? We're
They
back.
don't love you enough to come into the studio like I love you. Just keep that in mind. They're remote.
Practicing my social distancing.
Yeah, same here.
I'm socially distanced from this chair right here.
I know you wish I was there.
I do. It's just not the same. It's not the same. You know, I can't peek around the TV and see Allie. I can't, it's just me holding down the fort with the producer in my ear.
Yeah, what's it like to be with that big ego of yours?
I know.
Stop.
I ask myself that every day.
Wow. Again, who's the one here?
Anyway, it's all love, people. It's all love.
We're happy you're joining us again. We had a good show Monday. Lots of questions from you guys, which we love.
Yeah, so many questions about recruiting. Robbie Wilson, again, coming in the clutch, sharing some knowledge about a lot of people just wanting some advice on recruiting videos and what to put in it, what not to put in it, what to do on social, how you should craft your emails, really, stuff that maybe they don't have access to that information and they can be able to ask those questions here on Here's the Deal. So, hello, Myron. Myron is here every show.
Myron is a super fan. He doesn't have a top fan badge yet, but I feel like he needs to get one.
I know. I was waiting for that to pop up.
And Terry, you're missing watching your granddaughter play. I think we're all missing anybody. I'd like to watch your granddaughter play.
Right.
So we're making it through. We're making it through. An interesting topic today, Ches.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about it.
Interesting topic. One of our resident journalists at Flo has been writing some of these really deep dive articles. He's been doing a really great job. Hunter Sharpless, if you want to follow him on Twitter, wrote a deep dive article on spending, NCAA's expense sheets, and what they've looked like over the last 10, 15 years. And oh boy, there's a lot there.
So much.
Literally and figuratively.
Right. And we had no idea that over the course of a decade, the spending has just been kind of astronomical. And you can credit that to the rise of interest and revenue from collegiate sports. But also, and we kind of had this discussion, is I am sure in the college space, as you are competing for the top level students, the top level athletes, it becomes an arms race at some point. Who has a better stadium? Who has the best support staff? Who has a better chance of getting a job after college? Who has the best chance of making the College World Series or a bowl game? Just so many things play into the gross amount of spending. And I just kind of want to hear your guys' thoughts when you read Hunter's article.
Well, I mean, the first line of the article is this astronomical number written out in not in letters, and you just it takes the whole length of the page to get that number out. It's $10,357,149,051 is the amount of money that landed on 2018 expense sheets of 230 NCAA Division I. That's just Division I institutions.
Insane.
$10 billion hit the books in 2018 for 230 D1 schools. Just let it sit in. $10 billion. And, my brain immediately, I was like, that's got to be higher than the GDPs of some countries. So that is higher than Haiti's GDP. That is higher than the GDP of Somalia, Malawi, the Maldives. It's higher than Fiji's GDP.
Wow.
That's Barbados. It's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. It's hard to wrap your head around. So that was, I mean, you hit with that stat off the bat, and that was kind of the first thing that kind of stopped me in my tracks. Allie?
Yeah, and for me, whenever I was reading this article, I think the craziest thing is he kind of breaks it down by the amount of spending for each school. So the smallest budget was still more than $4 million. 34 schools spent over 100 million. 63 schools spent over 50 million. Like, this is insane. It's like a lot of money.
Right, like
Yeah,
when
and
you talk about NCAA sports being business, like these are the numbers. Like these are business numbers. Like this is a business. People, kids go there for school, academics, 100%. But this is a business. This is the business of college athletics. When you're looking at these kind of numbers, for sure.
well, and I think yes, our eyebrows are raised when we see this balance sheet, but you have to think that, especially for the time period that we're in, those balance sheets are completely being reevaluated. The money is going to be severely, tightened up through all departments because all the plans for getting students back on campus, football, all the other sports, it's kind of in flux right now, and we don't know when all of that is going to come back. And I mean, I have a theory that this is going to be kind of like a dance in terms of bringing students on campus. I feel like there probably will be a cap on the number of students that will be allowed in campus, and as long as there's no cases, then maybe a little bit more can be on campus. I don't feel like they're just gonna like open up the floodgates and all the students are gonna come back in, and then everybody can go about as business as usual. It's gonna be a dance of like reintroducing people like together, and as long as there's no outbreaks, and if there is an outbreak, I feel like they're going to reel that back in. So it'll be really interesting to see how universities deal with trying to get students back on campus, and because that reintroduction is going to lead into how do we get people back in the football stadiums, basketball arenas, baseball stadiums, softball stadiums, because all the rest of the sports are going to follow that model after that.
Yeah, 100%. And I think all these schools' ability to make money relies on everything you just said, like getting students back, getting athletes back, getting people back, people back in the seats of the stadium, paying for tickets, right? All their income and revenue depends on that. But I think Hunter takes the angle on this article of like, could this change the way that universities are spending their money? And that's kind of the angle that he takes here, and to
Yes.
kind of look at how, yeah, for sure. I think immediately right now, people are businesses, schools, whatever. They're all looking at their budgets and seeing where they can cut budgets. But will it have a long-term effect? And you have to wonder because if you look at, he did a great job breaking down 2005 expenses and 2018 expenses, and the percentage increase over those 13 years is wild. He picked a Power Five school he picked the school from each of the Power Five conferences. And Arizona State in the Pac-12 had a 219% increase in spending in those 13 years. Michigan had a 199% increase. North Carolina, 88%. Tennessee, 109%. Texas in the Big 12, 151% increase in spending. And those numbers look like, 50 or so million into above 100 million. That's what those numbers look like. Texas broke 200 million in 2018 in terms of expenses. It's wild. And the article is saying that most of this is being driven by football. Football makes a lot of money, and it also costs a lot of money. So it's just a really interesting deep dive that he takes, and he links to a whole report where you can kind of see the breakdown by by medical and by recruiting and by game expenses and travel, and it's really quite eye-opening in terms of where this cash is going and how much cash is going there.
And for
Yeah.
those of you who don't know which article we're talking about, I included it in the comments and I pinned it at the very top so you can go check it out on our site.
Yeah. Look, we're going to see a lot of changes. On Monday, we talked about some of the recruiting changes that we're going to see. Fundamentally, these programs may be asked to almost. You talked about the now numbers and then the old numbers, a decade apart. We can potentially see those flip, and some of those programs are going to be asked to operate on those old budgets, or maybe see their budgets cut in half. I've heard some stories about just programs already being asked to tighten up their spending. And if you guys have watched some of, I think the video that was released earlier today about how that impacts recruiting, where coaches go out to recruit, we'll see an increase in softball camps once they're permitted to have groups of people on campus and at their facilities. So I think those are some of the shifts that we're going to see, and we have to prepare.
Yeah. It's both ends too, right? Like you were talking about like cost reduction measures in terms of like traveling locally and where they're going for recruit and cutting costs, and then also like additional revenue, hosting more camps to bring in more money. So they're going to be burning that candle at both ends. It sounds like,
right?
All this is preliminary. Anything. I feel like
it makes the most sense too. Think about all the assistant coaches and volunteer coaches losing money off of camps this summer.
Yeah.
I think once the air starts to clear in the fall, it's going to be a lot of camps because it's like so cost effective. They don't have to travel anywhere. They make money. They put money in their coaches' pockets. And not only that, they can see their top recruits in the process, which is,
And Joshua
makes total sense.
Joshua brought up
Go
a good
ahead,
comment here on Facebook. So yeah, I was just saying that Joshua brought up a good comment. He said, this is what puts smaller schools in difficult positions because if there aren't competitive athletics, it's harder to recruit students, even non-athletic students.
Right. I mean, I think I would argue to say, are we going to see a more level playing field? Because now we talked about the facility boom is over. A lot of these programs are going to be operating, with smaller budgets for sure. So, I'm sure if we looked on a graph in terms of spending, you have like your Power Five, and then once you start scaling down to your mid majors, the budget continues to go down. And it does make it tough. But I think the advantage is to be able, like, everybody's going to be they're going to have to recruit locally. A lot of programs are going to be forced to do that. And if there's no summer and a partial fall, then the next step will be high school, and then high school becomes more important. Not to say that's like the best place to evaluate top level recruits, but programs are going to do what they have to do to get the players that they need. And if that means driving to a high school game, then that's what it means. And it's also doesn't count against them for recruiting days.
I could also see this, you just gave the scenario where it levels the playing field a little bit. I almost see it, it could widen that gap almost, because if you look at the spending, that it's not just the Power 5 schools that have increased spending that much. Smaller schools have also increased. Central Florida had a 195% increase in spend. Illinois, Chicago, 132%. So their budgets, I could see their budgets being affected more by this than Power 5 schools. Power 5 schools are going to figure out a way to make money. They have to. They're businesses.
Yeah.
But these smaller schools might get hurt more, and they might be the ones who, again, who knows how this is going to happen? Could it level the playing field? Absolutely. Could it widen the gap? I could see that happening too, with these smaller schools having to do what you just said, Chaz. Recruit more locally. But these Power 5 schools, they're going to figure out how to get money, and I think their budgets are going to get tighter. But I don't see the same thing happening to the Power 5 schools that I think is going to happen to these smaller schools. That's my take on it. It could go either way. Who knows?
Look, I'm just thinking outside the box here. Look, for the smaller programs, it gives you more incentive to give back to the communities that you exist in. So if you're able to develop that talent, and if you plan to be there for a long time, then you're able to work with some of these kids, like from 8, 10, 12 years old on through high school, and then potentially your university. It's not unheard of. But it might be worth an investment, especially since your budget is beginning to shrink. It's not a bad option to look at. And of course, we know this as well. An in-state kid costs way less than an out-of-state kid. So, we could potentially see less out-of-state recruits, or just like they're just being reduced. It could happen, Yeah. So if everybody's is being asked to save money, it's just a thought. Any more questions, Allie?
Yeah, so we have another good question. After every season, does the program have to turn in the ending spending amount, or are they allotted a certain amount?
Read that to me again. Sorry.
Yeah. So it says, after every season, does the program have to turn in the ending spending amount, or are they allotted a certain amount?
Well, before the season starts, they've already pretty much allocated all the money that will be spent for the year. But yes, they will have to turn in an end of year sheet to account for all of that. And there is a budget that they're supposed to stay within before spending even begins. So those numbers are kind of, you mix it, you allocate them to these areas to make those numbers work. Oh, good question though. Very good question.
I do have to just jump in and acknowledge my boy Nestor. This one's for you.
Oh no.
You have to, I saw that. You have to speak to your fans, Chaz.
Big head.
You have to speak to your fans.
Yeah.
We do have another interesting comment from Bobby.
Okay. My boy, Bobby.
Bobby Bryce. This insight makes me wonder why University of Texas continues to be a leader in voting down the third paid coach in softball/baseball.
I don't know. I don't know about that one. Kind of hurts my heart.
Yeah. With the boom in spending over the last 13 years, you would have thought that the third coach would have come in.
Not just that. They make the most money out of any university. Yep. They're the highest revenue generating school.
Now, COVID-19
I don't make those decisions.
I see the third coach be coming in on it. Like they're not gonna add coaching staff.
Yeah.
But certainly during the boom, when in the last 13 years when they increased spending 200%, you would have thought maybe. The article makes a good point about how a lot of this money has gone to football and it's gone to salaries and severances. So like you make a bad coaching hire, you got to pay severance, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that can drain money really quickly when you're paying for someone who's no longer there, and you got to pay severance. That's another big with some of these really
Ouch.
big salaries.
Ouchie.
So
Ouchie.
there are a whole bunch of things that go into those numbers.
I see a comment from Tim Babbitt in terms of fundraising. Yeah, honestly, I would expect nationwide programs are going to be fundraising like around the clock. A lot of them already do. It's part of what they do, but they might have to do it more. And again, that's why the camps become a crucial factor to how the programs are run, because you can do a lot and not spend so much in the process. So yeah, I mean, Chuck brought up a good point. Travel is going to be deeply impacted. I mean, I'm already hearing that plans to travel to certain tournaments are being canceled. Even travel dates set for 2021 are being reevaluated or canceled, and they're having to go to a local tournament. So like there's just going to be a lot of changes, and that's why we're here, like to discuss it. And if you guys haven't watched any of those Zoom calls, Bobby's been on them. There's just some really good discussions about all the changes, the potential implications from the coronavirus and the impending season. So a lot of good stuff in there.
Michelle Adams makes an interesting comment. She's like, I honestly think this is an acute event rather than long term. Sports will not regress for long. I think I'd love to see a deep dive into that opinion. I think nobody knows what's going to happen here. We're talking about,
it's unprecedented.
Yeah, it is. It's unprecedented. It could be a blip on the radar, or it could be long-lasting 5, 10 years out in the future. We don't know. I'd love to see a deep dive into that opinion and that side of this, and see how that could be a possibility. I think any possibility is on the table in terms of we just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, 100%. I see some comments flying in. Allie, what you got?
Yeah, so Michelle Carter, she has a good one. So she said, now that the NCAA allows players to make money, I'm assuming that's for certain conferences, could programs use that to help if they come to agreement to help?
I think that's only allowed in California right now, right? That's not.
Yeah, in California.
Yeah, I think California is the only one that passed that.
But
so, yeah.
Could programs use that to help, I guess, with California schools?
Potentially, but I mean, that rule was really designed for the student athlete to make that money. If any of you can correct me on that, that's more to benefit the single student athlete, which is like such a low percentage. So, I mean, that would be up to the student athlete's discretion on whether they want to share that revenue. But to my knowledge, that would be their own income.
There's a comment about many of these schools who never charge will have to do so. I think that's certainly a possibility. No more free admission to the games, right? Be ready to pay $5-10 for a game, possibly. Who knows?
Look, and then just look at it as that you're donating to help this program stay alive and thrive. Like, and if you want to see softball make it as a professional sport, then you have to pay for it. Hell, you pay for the baseball games you go to. You pay for the football games you go to. Like, it makes it no different. Just look at it in terms of like, I'm investing in something I believe in.
Seen anything else, Allie?
Anything else, y'all?
No, that was just about it.
Okay. All right.
Right.
Well, let's end it here, y'all. Really good talk, and it's an ongoing thing. And looking at all the different perspectives is so important, especially when we're all trying to make plans here and evaluate the landscape, and keep having these discussions, keep asking the questions. It's so important.
Agreed. What's coming up next, Chez? What do we got for the folks, the softball loving
Well,
fans?
I'm expecting you to be a little saltier next time.
And Nestor is too. Nestor was disappointed. I have no salt right now.
Exactly.
It's only when Chez is beside me that I can bring out my saltiness. I need her here so I can be yelling across the table at her. No, you got your Chez Show podcast, right?
I do. And I'm starting to get some Hot 100 players on the podcast too. So having some really good discussions. I had the number 2 recruit in the 2020 class. I had an interview with her today. And I talked with my good friend Lauren Lappin, the head coach for the Chicago Bandits, and hopefully get all my guests lined up for the next couple of months. I'm hoping that our team helps me get everything lined up for Here's the Deal and also the Chez Show. So you guys can be on the lookout for some of those.
So you got the Chez Show, FloSoftball 24/7. We're rebroadcasting old events, all your favorite events. You can literally just pop on your TV app, Flow Sports app, sit there. Why binge watch Netflix when you can binge watch FloSoftball? That's my question. That's my question.
Yeah, just pretend that you're there in the stands. Yeah. That's what we need actually on social. Like if you guys have FloSoftball in the background, I want you to pretend like you're in the stands, like cheering. And then send it on over to FloSoftball. Yeah, get you some seeds, get your snacks. Allie, we're here, right? Like you get what I'm putting down.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah, DM them to us. We'll post them.
Yeah, awesome. And then Allie will post our favorite one. Or all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
All right, y'all. We will see you on Monday.